What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The Celestial Compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Beal. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Beal.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net. Today we are going to talk about giving and receiving and the power of gratitude with Melisa Caprio of Postcards To The Universe. But first, a brief update about the December forecast. The December started with a solar eclipse, which is a huge push forward in Sagittarius, the sign that deals with our perspective, our mindset, what we believe to be true. And I think a lot of you would agree that the way you're looking at the world has locked into a different perspective that's been building over the last 2.5 years. So we're definitely flexing new muscles. Some people are kind of going a little overboard with the flexing, but we get to play this out over a few months. This month is not going to be an easy peasy lemon squeezy month, to be honest, but you probably sense that. It's a very powerful time of wrapping up a lot of old business and knocking things into a new way of being. We will be revisiting what we really value because Venus, the planet of love, of money, of creativity, is going retrograde later this month. And before she does, she will have a deep contact this weekend with Pluto, who is her higher counterpart in desire and money. She's going to dance with him 3 times. End of this week, Christmas Day, oh yeah, and then again early next year. And this will have us going really, really deeply into what we truly value. And a lot of stuff is being steered by factors deep in the subconscious. So notice that. Around Christmas as well, there is the culmination of a year-long process that's been shaking up a lot of friendships, a lot of structures, a lot of networks. The square between Saturn, old ways, and Uranus, radical change. This has been rocking us, and I've been saying stress testing structures since February. And don't think you're going to have the usual Christmas week this time, whether you celebrate it or not. The end of the year will be radically feeling like the end, and then a very softening influence comes into play. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and beneficence and good luck, good fortune, moves into Pisces, his ancient home base, and just softens and soothes everything and starts us on a voyage that's going to really peak next April. You can learn a lot more about all of this in my forecasts, which are at OMTimes, and also my site, EmpowermentUnlimited.net. Now, one more thing before we get into the main discussion. This show is airing on St. Nicholas Day, which is a holiday in Northern Europe. It's something that my family has celebrated for a long time, and it does involve an unseen benefactor showing up and depositing something while you're sleeping, while you're not conscious. And I have 2 very short vignettes for you that I wrote years ago. A friend and her daughter used to celebrate this holiday in the heart of Texas, but with a twist. They'd assemble packages for the girls' playmates and go out the night of December 5th to leave them on doorsteps. A few years back, while they were making their preparations, the girls started gloating about how funny it was that her girlfriends think that St. Nicholas visits them, only he doesn't. It's really her and her mom. But the real one visits me, she announced radiantly. Even more years back, my family took a stab at celebrating St. Nicholas Day ourselves. We were living in Munich, where my dad was on sabbatical from a faculty position and had the middle floor on a three-family house. Early in the evening, my mother pulled off some approximation of a visit from the saint himself, which involved depositing a bag at the door and tricking us into finding it. I'm sure it had candy, and I'm sure we had ripped into it and long since put it aside by the time the knock came. Or maybe it was the interior doorbell. I can't be sure. What I do know for certain what it was, that it was not the outside doorbell, which you had to ring to be let into the gate and then the front door of the house. This came from the hallway just outside our door. I went to the door and opened it. On the landing was a man in a red bishop's outfit, wearing an enormous oval hat and carrying a crook. He said he was St. Nicholas, and he said it in English. I asked him to wait, ran to the bathroom, and started yelling at my mother, who was behind the door in the tub. "Mom, St. Nicholas is here!" The next thing I remember is the sight of him in the dining room, which was crammed with dark, ornately carved cabinetry covered with demonic, pointy-tongued heads. He was slowly, solemnly proclaiming in pretty decent English that our names were in the book of good children. He opened a huge book and showed us, and damned if there wasn't an entry for the Beale children. He gave us a bag of fruit and nuts and took his leave. Our jaws were hanging. The landlady's little girl ran out of their downstairs apartment and looked down the street after him. Our landlady told us that he was a university student who'd been hired by families in the neighborhood to pay a visit on their children. Somebody had gone to the trouble, I'm guessing she was the culprit, to include the pack of American kids on the second floor. And this is our lead-in to today's topic, the season of giving and receiving and the power of gratitude. And I'm really happy to have Melisa Caprio with us. She is a fellow OMTime Radio host and the author of Postcards to the Universe. She's a creator, photographer, radio host, and author. Her book, Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams, invites people from around the world to participate in a movement by using photography, art, personal wishes and desires, and sending them out to the universe via a postcard. Her inspiration comes from a desire to have a forum where people come together in creative ways for global change. She's currently giving workshops on photography, art, transformation, and manifestation. She guides her clients on how to create a unique postcard for added effect on the power of creative intention. Melisa, I'm so glad you're with us today. Thank you for being here.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Kathy, for having me. It's nice to be on the other end of the mic. Thank you for having me.
Well, it seemed to me when I started thinking right before when I was planning my shows for the end of the year, and around when I was looking at Thanksgiving, I thought I'd really like to do a show about gratitude. And then it just kind of evolved. And when I realized that I had a show on St. Nicholas Day, which is connected with giving, which has the flip side of receiving, you popped into my mind as absolutely the right person for this. What can we start by you just talking about your project, your book, Postcards to the Universe?
Yeah, of course. I would love to. Thank you for thinking of me, by the way. Yeah, gratitude. I talk about gratitude a lot. I learned that the quickest way to manifesting is through gratitude. It's very powerful in manifesting what you want. So my book, Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams, is because I have a visual arts background. And when I learned about how we are the co-creators of our own experiences in our lives with the universe, I said, well, you know what? I want to be a conscious co-creator, and I want to bring in things that bring me joy, and passion, and love, and happiness, not things that cause me pain and, anguish and resentment and all that stuff, because we have a tendency to focus on the negative, right? Humans, we just do. We complain about our problems, right? That's what we do. So I decided, I want to shift that. And so when the idea came to me after kind of like a life change, because I've always been attracted to photograph. I love people's handwriting. I've always been fascinated with people's handwriting, maybe because I don't have good handwriting. I'm a lefty, so my handwriting is not beautiful, classically beautiful. Being a lefty, you have more challenges. So I used to photograph love letters and cards and stuff, and I always kind of had a thing for that. And then when I decided to incorporate creativity in making a manifesting postcard and asking people to write an affirmation, let's focus on an affirmation of what we want to bring into our lives. It kind of evolved from there. I mean, I'm giving you the quick version of how long it took for it to be a seedling to an actual book, which was many years. And I started doing workshops and asking people to send me. Well, in my workshop, I teach people how to make a manifesting postcard. I actually want to start getting to do them in person again, since we're now kind of coming back out of, seclusion a little bit. I haven't really since the pandemic, but people still send them to me. You can create one at home, and it's kind of like I describe it sort of like a mini vision board, because a lot of people are familiar with vision boards, especially in the start of the new year. Everyone, let me make a vision board of what I want to bring in this new year. So I ask people to kind of scale down and let's focus on one area and get as creative as you can, and imagine your life with that you want to manifest, and put that on your postcard and then send it to me. And when their story becomes their reality, I share it. And that's what the book's about. And
you have your address. I mean, people can still send you postcards, right?
Yes. Yep. On my website, postcardstotheuniverse.com, there's an address that you can send them. Mm-hmm.
So there are a number of aspects of this that I want to approach it from a couple different areas. But
sure.
What is the role of gratitude in this? I mean, it's easy for people to say, "Oh, I'm grateful," or "Oh, I give thanks," but how do you actually get the energy into it?
Yeah,
isn't that an important part of it?
That's a very important part of it. It's not the easiest part, especially if you're going through something that's hurtful or troubling, or, the last thing you do is feel grateful if you've just come from the doctor and you're dealing with health issues, or if you're going through a divorce, or, in the last 2 years, if you've lost somebody, right? I mean, obviously we're not feeling grateful. So to find ways to still find those things that you already have that you could be grateful for, and really it's kind of, I mean, it's sort of a boring answer, but it's really the one that works. It's practice. It's like exercising your body. You have to exercise your gratitude. And you just start in small ways. Like, for example, if you are a person who cherishes your sleep, like me, I love sleep. I love my bed, right? And I feel it when I go to bed at night. I have pillows that I love. I maybe will spray like some lavender on my sheets, and I just make the whole experience something that when I climb under the covers and I'm ready to go to sleep, I feel grateful for my bed. So you can start with what's already in your environment.
It's funny that you
go ahead.
It's funny that you bring up being grateful for your bed, because I was in New York City on Saturday night, and my travel home, which should have taken at most an hour and a half from where I was to my door, just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and I didn't get home until after 1 a.m. And this also included unexpectedly having to scrape a bunch of ice off my car before I could drive it. And I crawled into bed and just lay there going, I love my bed. Oh, I love my bed.
Yeah. So we take for granted the things that are around us. Like, maybe, like lately, I mean, I don't know, this past 2 years, like, how grateful I am for Netflix? For real. Seriously.
Really?
Being stuck at home. Yes, because I've binge watched so many fantastic shows because I've had the opportunity because I wasn't going out as much. And instead of thinking, oh man, I'm stuck inside, I can't do this, or, I'm locked in, I'll find a new show and I'm introduced to maybe new actors or a new storyline that I might not have found if it wasn't for me being, kind of stuck inside. So we have things in our environment that we can find to be grateful for. I mean, loved ones aren't obvious. Your children, your spouses, your parents, your siblings, your friends. Reminding yourself to be grateful for them, of course, but little things like maybe the way you make your coffee in the morning. I love coffee, and I love my whole ritual in the morning with my little cinnamon and whipped cream. Like, I make myself feel gratitude for that every day. And those are the ways to do it. So whatever that is for you in your immediate environment, I would focus on that and feel it. And if you have pets, they're the easiest way to feel grateful.
Mm-hmm. Because they're so happy to see you when you come home, unless it's a cat, and who knows. If you have a dog, the dog will be happy to see you.
They love you, right? They're always right. They no judgment, and you look at their little face, and you're madly in love, and you can be grateful for that.
And with that, we're going to pause for a brief break and be back in just a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Hang on, everyone. Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again, empowermentunlimited.net. Welcome back to Celestial Compass. We're talking about giving and receiving and the power of gratitude with Melisa Caprio, of Postcards to the Universe. And we were just talking about ways that you could encourage or develop gratitude right before the break. And one I'd like to throw out is after you've had a natural disaster, when life starts to go back to normalcy, I find it very easy to be extremely grateful for things you take for granted. For example, heat. The electricity is on. My roof is not leaking. There is no water in my house.
Yes. Here it's AC. You know how grateful we are in Florida for air condition? It's like
absolutely.
Every day. I think I say I love you to my AC, I think probably every single day.
Oh, well, I lived a long time on the Gulf Coast, so I'm with you on that. And I knew someone years ago who had been in AA who said she would just at night go through things like, thank you, I have a roof over my head, my children are safe, just really simple things. But she'd gone so far down into a deep, dark place that she was able to remind herself intellectually every single night and drive it into her head, which then kind of drove it into her being, how much better off she was.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like a spiritual muscle. You have to practice and work it, and you'll start to notice. At least this is what happened with me. Is I started to notice I made a decision to do 5 gratitudes a day. Once I made that decision, in the beginning, it wasn't as easy, but as time went on, it got easier and easier. And then what I started to notice was I would purposely look for things to be grateful for. like light traffic if I had to go to the store, or, somebody who would hold a door open for you. Like my mind would purposely start looking for those things instead of focusing on maybe the rude person who, knocked you out of line, cut in front of you, because we can see that, we can spot that a mile away. But it's nice to, when you start to really feel in gratitude, to look for the people on the outside that will show up for you in gratitude. That's what's so amazing. That's the manifestation part of it. So when you go out with the intention that I'm going to have a really good day and I am going to be grateful for all my experiences through the day, you're going to find that people are kinder to you. People are nicer to you. It works. You just have to, I'm telling you, it works.
There are two aspects to this that I am compelled to comment on. And the first is you're changing the general vibe of what you're sending out, for one thing, so people respond to that. But secondly, this is a testament that what you think and what you look really does mold your perspective and then how you experience life. Because it could be that there are still some people around you that are being icky, but they're just not on your radar. You're focusing on the stuff that's making you feel good.
Yeah. And it's very challenging when you're having a really bad day or somebody's really made you angry. And that's when you have to do it, and you have to do it some more.
Well, I have a homing thought that I give people for that, and that is, show me how this benefits me. And if someone called me last week and was crying on my shoulder about a truly devastating situation, and I listened for a bit and said, well, how does this benefit you? And this person didn't have to think a second and then just spit out something. And I went, okay, that's good. All right, you're seeing that. I mean, often people get angry at me if I suggest this, but it's a wonderful, wonderful prompt. How does this benefit me? Sometimes you have to stand on your head to see it, but there's a way you can work things to your advantage in the way you're viewing them, regardless.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
So how do you think the notion of giving and receiving fits into this? So if gratitude starts changing or softening or brightening your outlook, have you seen it spilling over into other things?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. When you're feeling more grateful, you naturally want to give more of yourself. Like it's like second nature. You don't have to try. You don't have to feel forced. Like, oh, I got to do this now for this person. It's not like that. It's like, I want to do this for this person, and you want to do it because what you see happening is you see that maybe it's some kind of act of love, whether that's giving a physical gift or giving your time or giving your friendship or treating somebody to something nice. You see how it brightens them up, and that makes you feel even better. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say selfish. Selfish isn't the right word, but it kind of is, because you're making them feel so good, but in turn it makes you feel so good. And then what'll end up, a lot of times what happens is it's a perpetual movement. Then they feel good, and it may not come back to you directly from them, but they may pay it forward to somebody else because they received something and it made them feel so good, and so they want to give. And that's how we change things, like one person at a time. You can't change the world out there. You can only change yourself. And when you change yourself, the people around you will start to shift, and the ones that aren't resonating with you maybe you won't be in contact with them anymore. Maybe you don't see them as often, but the ones that are on that same level of vibration, who vibrate with you, then they vibrate that good energy out, and it just keeps going and going.
I like to call this a pebble in a pond. I like to ripple effect. You never know. You're being decent to somebody could have ramifications that just keep spiraling and spiraling out. I find it very important for that reason to be pleasant and kindly and generous spirited to people in the service industry, especially these days. So
Yes.
someone who's a cashier in a grocery store, definitely wait staff, because they come in contact with a lot of people, and you might have done the one thing that turned somebody's attitude about humanity around. You never know.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. You hear stories like that. You hear it all the time. Somebody was feeling really, really down and was having dark thoughts, and a kindness from a stranger saved them, you know? So you just don't know.
it's like the plot of a holiday film.
It is. Hallmark movies. I love I love Hallmark Christmas movies. They're so sweet and they are. I just love them.
And there's really something that we focus a lot on, the joy of giving, and there is something to the sense of satisfaction you feel when you hit on a gift that absolutely speaks to the recipient, when it's something that
Yes.
shows, I see you, I validate you, I know this is important, and the dollar amount really has nothing to do with it. It's the energy.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you don't want to overextend yourself. See, then you're not in gratitude anymore. So that's a good thing that you mentioned that, because now that we're in the holiday season, right? People are shopping for other people, and everyone, you want to get everybody, a gift if you do that, and you don't want to overextend yourself where financially it's putting pressure on you, because then you're feeling obligated. You're not in that giving and gratitude spirit. You feel like, oh, I have to get them something, and you're not grateful when you feel it like that. So you're right. The dollar amount doesn't mean anything. It's the intention behind you giving to somebody. Like you said, you're validating them because you know them, and this little something will really make them happy.
And I love it when someone opens it and went, oh my God, you get me.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. And you can give an experience. You don't
yes.
even have to give a physical gift. You can give an experience. Like, you can buy tickets to a show that somebody would just love to see, and that's something they would never do for themselves.
Or simply spend time with someone.
Exactly.
So energy is really big. We're identifying a few things here. Actually really feeling the gratitude, and it might be easier for you to do that if you have an intense experience that makes you see that you took something for granted. I'm thinking of the final scenes of It's a Wonderful Life being a very good instructive
Yes.
thing for that. Like, oh God, I really do love all this. So I always see George Bailey yelling
Yes.
at the
I know.
at the savings and loan,
I
building a
know.
loan,
I
whatever it was.
know. And that's why they play it every year, because it's universally true, right? He realizes how important he was to everybody around him.
And how much he actually valued his dingy little life instead of the dreams that he had, but the reality of what he had, and that it was
Right.
there. There's
It's
a flip
true.
side to all of this that people don't often talk about, and that's the ability to receive.
Yes.
Have you ever run into people not being able to receive?
Yes. You're talking to one person who used to be like that. I know the reason. I'm the oldest of three, and I have a developmentally disabled sister, and we're only a couple years apart. And so I was always the one who helps out, because I always had to, the responsible help out. And so I always put myself, last, because, you have younger siblings, and one who's special needs. Of course, they have special needs. That's why they say special needs, right? And the stress it puts on your parents, and you see that when you're really young, and you realize, well, I'm healthy, I'm good, so I can do this on my own. And you get that I got really independent, independent with my emotions, independent as a young child. So when people and I didn't know this until way later when I started doing some deep inner work, that when people would come and ask me stuff, I would turn it around and always want to talk to them about them. And I wouldn't be able to receive that somebody's interested in, oh, well, what's going on with you? And I still work at it, especially now as an interviewer. I'm used to interviewing people, right? So I flip it, and but I catch myself now. And I'm like, they're asking about you. This is me talking to me. They're asking about you. They want to know about you because they're interested. So that means open yourself up and receive that. I have to remind myself of that. So yeah, for sure.
I often think that people actually block stuff coming because for a zillion different reasons,
Sure.
They think they say intellectually they want it, but they're really uncomfortable with their right to actually have it. There's a concept. So can you actually have it? Yeah. Or sometimes that's too simplistic a word for it, although people say, oh, I don't have the self-worth. Well, it might be that it doesn't fit into your worldview, that this is what's supposed to be in your life, that it's not right for someone like you. And some people just are uncomfortable with the flow coming their way because guess what? There's more power when you're the giver.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're a people pleaser, it's especially hard to receive. A lot of women are people pleasers, because we please our children, our spouses, our parents, so women have a tendency to be people pleasers. So we have to open up and be able to receive. We don't always have to do everything for everybody.
Which is tricky.
Yeah, it is.
And I think a lot of these concepts have come up for personal reevaluation, just given what's been going on astrologically over the last couple of years, which has corresponded to, paralleled a gigantic shutdown and slowdown in everybody's lives, and getting much more aware of what's most important to you and simplifying and paring priorities back to a lot less than 3 years ago we were running around all caught up in. So we've had the latitude for some introspection that maybe we wouldn't have had the time for before. And a lot of people are looking at stuff in terms of, is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it. There's a notion of the Great Resignation. It's a term that's being given to people bailing on jobs and deciding that the working conditions aren't very good. I'm seeing this happening in lots of relationships as well. Like, I've been putting up with stuff, no more. Yeah. And there's a truth that's part of that. And somehow this all ties into what we've been talking about. I'm not sure exactly
you
how.
must really see it too with your clients, because I'm sure a lot are coming to you to say, hey, what's going on? Because this is how I'm feeling right now. Yeah, I'm sure. Wow.
Well,
yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it, that big resignation. Like, I'm just not dealing with this anymore. I'm not doing it. Yeah.
And I think that gives you more space to appreciate what is there.
Yes.
What does stay, which gets it back to, dough. We're back with the concept of gratitude.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like, even in my little world of photography, I changed all the way that I've been photographing the postcards, and since I've been stuck inside more, and the way the work has grown, I'm so grateful for it, because it wouldn't have grown in that way. I wasn't expecting it. The way that I'm photographing the postcards now. And I love it. I have my whole little ritual, like when I set up a photo shoot, and I get all into that creative energy, which is my favorite place to be.
That makes a lot of sense. That you would have had that development in this moment of time. A lot of sense at all. Well, we're just at about the time for our final break, so I'm going to go ahead and pause right now, and we'll be back again in a couple of minutes. How would you like navigational tools you can use on your own? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, and click the Shop tab. There you'll find lots of talks and guides explaining the big influences at work now, like Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. You'll also find a variety of guided visualizations for relaxing, clearing your energy, or getting to know planetary archetypes. That address again, empowermentunlimited.net. Welcome back to Celestial Compass. We're talking about giving and receiving and the power of gratitude with Melisa Caprio, author of and host of the show, Postcards to the Universe. I'd like to talk about some real-world examples of how this has worked. And I read my little piece at the outset because they fit that. And especially the incident that happened when I was living in Munich. One little act led to actual experience of magic and a story that has stayed with me for decades. I tell this story every December 6th because I have to, because I mean, St. Nicholas showed up at my door.
That is a great story, I have to say. It really is. That must have been so magical as a child. Like, you must
I was
have
a
felt
teenager.
Like...
I was an unhappy, sullen teenager, and I was utterly flipped out. Like, St. Nicholas is here.
That's even better. Yeah. Surly teenagers, right? That's great.
Yep. Yeah, so you never know what some little act that you do for somebody else can have a profound impact on them. I have another one in my back pocket, but I'm curious, are there any manifestation using shifts in your mindset, stories, examples you can think of in your own life or things that people have sent to you?
Sure. You mean some of the postcards that I've received? You mean like some of the?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. I've gotten so many. Yes, there is one that it's fascinating because his story was a little bit different. He was working as I tell the story in my book, and he was working as an attorney, and he was a defense attorney, and he was miserable. He did it just because it was like the family line, and he had to defend like really criminals that were guilty, of terrible things, and he didn't like it. And he wrote a simple postcard about how he wishes, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what he said, but how he wishes, he could find some joy and happiness or something in his life. And shortly after that, he had a heart attack. I mean, he's alive. And when he had the heart attack, it woke him up, and he quit being a defense attorney and started working in schools that were like more inner city schools where they really needed him because he just loved to teach these young youth, especially kids of color. Like he is black, and he wanted to work with kids of color, and he's so happy. He makes like nothing about what he used to make, but he's so joyful now. And he said having the heart attack was the best thing that ever happened to him. And I'll never forget that story.
Well,
it broke him open, he said.
It happens to a lot of people. Yeah,
that was one story. And then my story of when I was a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And I had to sing for dolphins. I still have a thing for dolphins. And that's what I wanted to work with. And I ended up never being a marine biologist. I ended up getting into photography. And because I think I put that manifestation out so strongly that years later, I manifested working with dolphins as a photographer, photographing therapy with dolphins with special needs. Kids doing therapy. I was staff photographer for 7 years. I talk about that.
That is really cool.
Yeah, and I got so much out of working with the animals and the kids. And that is all because of my sister who's special needs. I photographed her, and I photographed all these programs, and I would go to group homes, and that was what I was doing. And I wanted to expand, and I just kind of asked if I could visit a facility that was close to me. We live in South Florida. It was in the Florida Keys. And they said, yeah, come on. And if the parents say you can photograph, sure, photograph. And they loved my pictures. And the third time I was there, he offered me a job. And I said yes on the spot. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, and that was it was a manifestation. That was a strong desire that I put out there when I was a kid. Mm-hmm.
And you were drawn by joy.
I was drawn by joy. I used to watch Jacques Cousteau's specials with my uncle, and he would explain everything to me, and I was fascinated, like just fascinated, especially when he would talk about with the dolphins. Like I just had this thing for them, and now I'm looking at pictures right now. I have pictures of them all over my house, and I come to find out that I've had my animal totems done by a shaman, and that they have been with me since birth. They're one of my strong animal totems, dolphins. Yeah.
And I think they are associated with joy also.
Yes.
I mean, I know hummingbirds are, but I think play or joy or something very uplifting.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God, so uplifting. Smart, intuitive, beautiful. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Yeah. So, and I get stories from people who, have a dream vacation that they can't even imagine how they could go. And sure enough, they manifest it. And they'll tell me, you're never going to believe this. And I love those. You're never going to believe this because that's how it happens. Because we put all our energy into what we want. So, you put it in there and you don't worry about the how, the when, the why. You just say, okay, and you believe and have faith that the universe wants to bring it to you because it does, and it'll show up. Coincidences, I do that in quotes. I don't believe in coincidences.
Oh, neither do I. Neither do I.
Somebody will show up that'll introduce you to somebody else that'll help make it happen. You know how that goes. Mm-hmm.
And this is reminding me of there's another holiday film that speaks to this, Miracle on 34th Street. Toward the end, the unbelieving young child played by Natalie Wood, who has asked Kris Kringle for a specific house and it's not under the tree. And her mother says, faith is believing even when your mind tells you not to, or something like that, or when common sense tells you not to. And they follow the instructions that Kris Kringle has given them to drive home. And she just sits in the back of the car going, I believe. It's silly, but I believe. And then, of course, they drive right by the house she wanted. But when I get in a bad place, I'm little Susan Walker in Miracle on 34th Street. I believe. It's silly, but I believe.
Yeah, I believe. It's true. You have to believe.
Do you have any examples you can think of somebody just switching the way they viewed reality and this ending up helping them? I mean, I guess the man with the heart attack was part of it that got his attention and made him think about things very differently.
Well, yeah, I actually have another one in the books too. She was married, and she is married, I should say, and but her first love broke her heart. So she wanted to do a postcard about healing that broken part of her, because she felt, I guess, intuitively that it was somehow holding her back in her marriage, even though she was married with kids to a great guy. But I guess maybe she was feeling like a disconnect or something. So she was making a postcard about healing her broken heart and finally forgiving this person who betrayed her. And I knew she'd made the card because she told me she made it, and she said she was going to mail it. And like a month or so, like even longer, like 2 months would come by, and I messaged her. I'm like, did you ever mail the postcard? And she's like, no, not yet, but I'm going to. And like another week or two went by, and finally I'm like, you got to mail me the card. She goes, I know I will. And then a few days after that, she sent me a message, and she's like, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. And I said, what? And she said, the day she dropped it in the mail to me that she was ready to release it, she got a message from this person apologizing to her for how he betrayed and hurt her.
Of course she did. That day. Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't let it go until she was ready to let it go, and that's when it shifted everything for her.
Which goes back to the ability to receive.
the ability to receive.
So she gained the ability to receive. She cleared the space, and then bam, he could come through. She might have actually been energetically blocking it, because sometimes you get something out of nursing your resentment. We're
Of course.
humans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I always thought, wow, that story was really wild, because she wasn't asking for, she just wanted her heart to be healed, and she wanted forgive so that she could embrace the relationship she already has, because something was holding her back and she felt it.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
So can you think of any others?
Well, I have my one friend who, I love her. She sends the most creative. We became good friends. She sends the most beautiful postcards. Like, she's so creative, and she sends me ones for like everything. She sent me one for getting her new house. She bought a new house. She sent me one for a relationship. She got into a relationship. Well, now they're no longer together, but she learned a lot from it. But the point was, it came. And then she sent one for. She's into dancing, flamenco dancing, and she sent a card about doing a flamenco trip, and along with it was a little tiny card of a couple dancing in this really small town in Spain, somewhere like not a big city like Madrid or anything. And I think it was over a year later, maybe even almost 2 years later, with her dance troupe, they happened to be going over to Spain. She loves Spain, and she wants to move there one day, so she's making me a postcard about moving to Spain. The dance troupe happened to go through that town. Of the little tiny attachment card she sent with her manifestation about it, which was, we were both blown away. Like, it was that town. That wasn't planned. And it wasn't like a Barcelona or Madrid or anything big. It was this tiny little town.
And you get into chicken or the egg situations.
Exactly.
With something like that. Was it on her radar before because she was going to go there, or did she magnetize it?
No, she didn't. She wasn't planning on joining this specific troupe to go traveling. This was like a while after. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
So is there something we can challenge people with to play with during this particular holiday season?
Well, I would think, think really, as we're wrapping up 2021, and 2021 has been tougher on a lot of people, even more than 2020 for a lot of people that I know. So it was wrapping up 2021, and you saw all the stuff that was going on, right? Astrologically.
Oh yeah.
Maybe really think about one thing that you would really want to bring into your life for 2022. And it doesn't have to be a major life change thing. It doesn't have to be like a move or a relationship or anything like that. Maybe just something that you would bring you joy, and work on being grateful about how you would feel receiving that, and play with that as the year, as we move into 2022, and make a postcard around it. And you could send it to me. And if you need help, I'll help you. You're going to email me. I tell people how to make one on my website.
That's true. You do. And so let's talk a little more about what you've got on your site and your show.
Sure.
Tell people again where they can find you.
So you can find me here on OMTimes on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, Creating the Life You Crave. And I'm on every Wednesday, and I love to bring on guests. I've had Kathy on before, and guests like her. I have a lot of healers on. Next week, I have my friend who comes on every so often. He's a channeler. And I just like to interview people who are doing really interesting things. So you can find me there, or if you go to postcardstotheuniverse.com, that leads you to my book. You can, if you're interested in purchasing a book, my blog. I put all the shows up on my podcast, so you can go through all the old shows. And I also am giving away right now a 30-day gratitude visual journey. So if you sign up About Me, and it says join my movement, and you sign up for it, my newsletter, it comes right to your inbox for free. And you learn how to use your phone as a camera to help you manifest things that you're grateful for, that you want to be grateful for, that you want in your life, using gratitude.
So you're helping people capture the visuals.
The visuals. So say you want a red car, like a new car. So when you're out and about, take pictures of red cars you like, say it's maybe you want to manifest a new relationship, take pictures of couples holding hands, don't be creepy about it, but you know what I mean? Like, you want to just remind yourself, this is what I want. And it makes you feel grateful for what you already have. Yeah. It's 44 pages long. And it's a PDF. Mm-hmm.
You have the word gratitude in the title for it. So how does that fit in? How does gratitude fit in with what you teach people?
Well, because I have a lot of writing exercises to tell us about how to get clear. And what we do is we focus on each different areas of our life, like what things we can do in our health to be grateful for every day, things we can do for abundance, for financial abundance. And then we're using our camera as a visual tool to go along with that. I have exercises and stuff in there. Yeah.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I'm a visual right. So I'm a visual artist. So for me, everything's got a visual component. But yeah.
So it's not just an intellectual process. It's getting through to people in different ways.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. I love that. I like that.
And it comes right to your inbox if you just sign up, join my movement with your email, and boom, it comes in as a thank you. And how to make a manifesting postcard.
I'm thinking people should do that. They should make manifesting postcards for 2022 and bombard you with them.
Yes, I do too. Please. I need more. I love them. Let me tell you, when I get them in my mailbox, I am so grateful.
See? You can create gratitude by sending Melisa your postcard.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, I am so glad you came on, and we just let the conversation go wherever it's going to go. And I hope that your holiday season is filled with delights, even as intense as everything is. As when stuff happens, stop and say, this is why I appreciate fill in the blank.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. And I got to have you come back on my show again. Maybe sometime in the new year, we'll talk about what's going on for 2022.
Okay, great. Well, have a great couple of weeks, everybody. Talk to you again in the middle of the month.